Hello everyone, and welcome to another quick ride. Today I have an Explorer XCA, so let's just pull over and have a quick look at it, shall we? So here it is, the Explorer XCA. Now, right off the bat, I should say that there are a lot of different models available of this bike. You've got the standard XR and XC, you've got an XR X, an XRT, an XCX, and an XCA, I believe. First thing to remember is that they're all the same bike. There's nothing fundamentally different about it. The suspension is the same, the engine is the same, the brakes are the same, everything is identical. The only difference that you'll have on the different trim models and the different off-road and road models is that basically you get different colors and you get different accessories fitted as standard. I'm going to take my gloves off, it's too warm. Now this one is an XCA that comes in this lovely green, which you can't get on an XR version, unfortunately. And this XCA version comes as standard with quite a few accessories. And this is the top model, basically, of the XC version. This is the top model. So as standard, you get the crash protection, you get the hand guards, you get these off-road foot pegs, you get the, what are these called? The things to hang your panniers on. The panniers are an optional accessory, but you get the pannier racks as standard. You get the fog lights, and I think that's about it. On this specific version, I think the center stand comes with it as well. Oh yeah, you have the heated seats for both, comfort seats for both passenger and the rider. These all come part as the XCA package. On the standard bike, however, you still get a lot of stuff. For instance, on the standard bike, both the XR and the XC version, as standard, you get an electrically adjustable windscreen, and you get a number of riding modes, and you get an electronically adjustable suspension front and rear. So enough talk. I've now presented the Explorer in its natural habitat. So let's take it for a ride on some of the nicer roads here. Now, as I'm getting on the bike, I should note that I am not the tallest of persons. I'm about 175 centimeters. I have no idea what that is in inches. But the height, and this is the seat on the lowest setting. There is a lower seat, but this is the standard seat on the lowest setting. And it's just about adequate for me. In off-road conditions, this wouldn't work. Now, with this being a fairly heavy bike, it's not easy for me to maneuver it around. In a hilly circumstances, this definitely would be quite difficult. Right, off we go. On these twisties, the bike does handle quite nicely. Like I mentioned, it's quite a heavy bike. This one, dry weight, weighs in at 256 kilograms. Whereas the XR version is about 5 kilograms lighter, and there's a low version of this, which is lighter still, but at around about 260 kilograms without fuel, and it takes 20 liters of fuel, so that would make the empty weight of the bike without a rider, that would almost be around about 280 kilograms, which is quite a lot. But then again, an R1200 GS is also around 270. I believe the empty weight of the R1200 GS is a little higher even. So it's not abnormal. I'm just saying, if you're looking at this type of bike, expect this kind of weight. But as heavy as it is when standing still, once you're riding, it becomes light as a feather. So we've got some nice corners coming up here. And the bike just eats them up. very nice. It changes direction quite quickly, so I'm quite happy with that. So, the electronically adjustable screen. On most other bikes you don't get that, and if you do, it has its own switch gear, which adds to the mess of buttons here. Triumph has chosen for a very simple setup. You've got the trigger here, which is usually the pause button, that activates a mode in the computer. Basically, that's over here. This is the onboard computer. So I've now selected the screen, and that's the standard setting. So I just pull the trigger, and then with the mode selector button from the menu, I pull up the screen. And the wind just completely disappears. You can probably hear me quite well now, even though I'm going about 80 kilometers per hour. But I feel like I'm completely out of the wind. That's fantastic. I'm sure on the motorway this is really, really good. To put it in another position, just pull the trigger again and push the button, and it goes down. It's quite a warm day, so I'm just going to put it like this, so I have not a lot of wind coming in so you can hear me, but I still have some refreshing air for myself. I've also mentioned the electronically adjustable suspension. So I just use the menu selector button here, go down one, pull the trigger, and now I can choose in what setting I want the suspension to be. And I can go all the way from sport, which makes the suspension very hard, and you can feel every ridge and every bump. You know, right now there's little things on the road here that they're not really bumps, but they're basically places where there have been lines like this, and they've been scraped off, and I can feel that through the handlebars. It gives a lot of feedback that way. The suspension is also quite hard now. And if I go to the extreme other end of the spectrum, and I completely set it to comfort, it becomes a cruiser. Now all those bumps, they're just ironed out quite nicely, and it becomes a very nice and stable ride. The suspension becomes a bit softer, and it's just more pleasant to ride if you're doing long distances, or if you're on a really bad road, for instance. There are also 5 riding modes as standard on this bike. Sorry, no, I'm wrong. On the bike here, on this version, on the XCA version, and on the XRT version, you get 5 riding modes that come with the bike. As standard, though, the bike only comes with about 3. Now, those 3 modes are, if I'm not mistaken, an off-road mode, a road mode, and a rider mode. On this particular bike, you get 5 modes. Let's just go through them real quick. It's very easy to access them, because on the Tiger 800 you have to lean forward and press the buttons like that, and you can't set it up while you're riding. On the Explorer, though, we've got the mode button here. Press the mode button and it shows all the different road modes we have. Now, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but it shows the mode and what setting every mode is in. So it's now in road. If I switch it to sport, it'll show ABS is still in road, the mapping is changed to sport, traction control is changed to sport, and so on and so forth. Now I can see here that someone in the sport mode has changed the suspension setting to comfort, which really shouldn't be. So I'm just going to pull over and sort that out for a moment.
One eternity later.
Yeah, this is a test bike, so probably a lot of people have been playing with these settings. But fortunately, you can just go into an advanced menu by holding the trigger button, which doesn't work while I'm riding, for safety reasons, obviously, apparently. But you can just go into the onboard computer and reset all of the modes to their default settings. So that's just what I've done. So now I'm in sport, and I'm on the wrong road for it, apparently. So the engine, it has the same horsepower, but the throttle valves open a little bit faster, a little bit more aggressive. The suspension is set to the highest setting, so the sport setting, so it's not quite hard on these speed bumps here. I can feel them quite well, but you also get a lot of feedback through the handlebars from everything that's happening on the road. Now, I haven't talked about the engine yet. The engine is a 1215cc inline 3-cylinder engine, obviously, and it now conforms to the Euro 4 regulations. And even so, Triumph has managed to eke out even more horsepower than there was before. As a matter of fact, the horsepower went up from 136 horsepower to 139 horsepower, which is nice. 3 horsepower is not much, you won't feel that, but of course more is better. Unless, of course, if you're a Belgian, because of the way the road tax works in Belgium, that now bumps the bike up to a higher class. So basically, in Belgium at least, to register the bike, the annual tax is still the same, but to register the bike, instead of paying 400 and something euros, you're now going to be paying 800 and something euros. In the past, this wasn't the case, because for the French market, most bike manufacturers would limit their bikes anyway to a certain horsepower. But since that regulation has now dropped in France, Triumph is not going to muck around with that anymore, just for us Belgians. Which is a bit unfortunate. Yes, you do get the extra horsepower, but since you don't really feel it anyway, it feels a bit unnecessary. For us anyway. For everyone else, this is probably a great thing. Now, the power is quite nice. On a big bike like this, you obviously need a bit more power to get it going, but you can feel that it's quite grunty. Now, I've talked about the suspension before, about how you can set it up on the onboard computer. What I haven't mentioned is that, well, it's completely electrically adjustable, of course, front and rear. Now, in the front, you have an electronically adjustable damping. So it's basically the computer with a little motor turns around the little things that adjust the damping as you go along. And in the rear, you have an automatic semi-active damping system with an automatic adjustable preload. Now, what that means is, and this is really genius, what that means is that when I get on the bike with my gear on, I'm almost 100 kilograms, and the rear suspension will automatically adjust the preload for my weight. It will adjust the damping for my weight. So, for me, this bike is now sprung ideally for how much I weigh. If I go on holiday and I take some luggage with me and possibly even a passenger, the bike will automatically adjust the damping and the preload to match the additional weight. So the bike doesn't feel too soft because it's got so much weight on it. Conversely, if some really light person gets on it, like some 60-kilogram young strapping chap gets on the bike, for him, the bike, if it's adjusted for me, the bike would be much too hard. Well, no problem. The automatic adjustment will automatically sense the weight that's on the bike and adjust the suspension for that person. So that is really, really, really good. That is, I don't know if any other brands offer that kind of thing right now, but I'm very, very impressed with that capability. Now, brakes. This Explorer, well, all of the Explorers, have an axial pump at the front, so basically a standard pump as you find on most bikes, but they've got the radial calipers down below. So what I find is that the initial application is quite docile, it's quite soft, so you can be very precise with it, how much you want to brake. But if you just slam everything, they stop quite well. Doesn't stop as hard as, say, a Tiger Explorer or a Street Triple, but for this bike, it's enough. It's definitely better than what you have on the Tiger 800. In conclusion, the 2016 Tiger Explorer XE, XR, doesn't matter. They're pretty much all the same, except for the accessories and the colors. Basically, it's down to what you like personally and how big your budget is. There is a lot to like about this bike. There really is. I've always found that in comparison to their competitors, and Triumph has always been very adamant that the R1200 GS is the Mac Daddy in this segment, and that when they created the Explorer, they wanted to attack BMW on their own turf. And whereas the Explorer has always been a very good bike, a very capable bike, a very good-looking bike, that's personal, of course. I've always personally found that the Explorer was, in terms of the technology, was a bit lacking compared to the BMW. BMW has always been very much in front of the curve there. With this bike, however, they have caught up quite nicely. If you look at all the technology you can get on this bike, that's stuff you can all get on the BMW as well. I think really right now Triumph have really made a step up with this iteration of the Explorer, and while I wouldn't say it's better, I'm certain that they can compete on an even level now, and that's quite a big thing. Now the price has come up a little bit compared to the previous generation Explorer. The previous Explorer was I think about stock about 14,000 something euros, whereas this one is now, I think it's about 1,000 euros more expensive, maybe 1,500 euros more expensive. So while there is an added cost, you do get a lot of stuff as standard. You get the riding modes. You get the TSAS, which is the electronically adjustable suspension. You get an onboard computer with loads and loads and loads of functionality. You get an ABS system that now comes with, as they call it, an internal measurement something something, which basically means that it offers limited corner ABS. It's probably not as good as the system that the BMW has, but frankly, this isn't my bike, and I'm not brave enough to test it. So I'm going to leave that to the experts. As for the other bits and bobs, you get this fantastic little screen here, which is just such a wonderful addition. It makes riding so much more enjoyable and under changing conditions. The seat is really, really comfortable. Even though I have the comfort seat here, I'm fairly certain that the standard seat, it's a lot wider, so you have a lot more surface to sit on, which I'm sure will make long distance cruising quite enjoyable, let's say. Woo! Look at that. Yeah, it does that too quite well. So, I'd say this is a very good piece of machinery. If you're interested in it, go to your Triumph dealer and ask for a test ride. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.